this?
Thank you, Hugh. So we had this organization come in who wanted to we had a group of students come in who wanted to make this an organization. It's called UNI Students for Life. Their goal is to save lives threatened by induced abortion, euthanasia, and destruction of human embryos, and just to spread awareness about this issue. Eight students have expressed interest, and just to keep in mind that we approve student organizations based on if they meet our requirements of a constitution. So they have met all the requirements, such as having a purpose in their constitution as well as duties for all their executive positions. So an organization cannot be denied because you oppose or support their mission. So that's my quick pitch for that.
So before we move to debate, are there any questions for Isha on OrgFi's reasoning or anything about this bill?
Yeah, can I be recognized?
Yeah.
Is this organization a chapter of a national org?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Isha? Okay. Looking like there are no more questions, we will move to a period of debate. Would anyone like to speak on this bill?
May I be recognized?
Yeah, Mohammed.
So, first of all, I want to kind of dispel with this notion that the issue the issue here is like political or partisan in nature. If you look at the language of UNI's mission statement, for example, or if you look at some things that you might find in the handbook, there are multiple places where it will note that we shouldn't be causing harm to students, and the point of UNI is specifically against that notion. I think there is some sort of responsibility that the institution has to its student body, and I think that's reflected within the official documentation for it. So I think we need to step back from viewing this as a partisan issue or as a political issue, and I think ultimately the problem I would have with this bill is nothing so much of that nature, but that it, or with registering the student org ultimately, is that it objectively harms students beyond any sort of subjective association, that's purely a matter of opinion. And so, for example, in terms of Students for Life, the president of that organization, Kristen Hawkins, is on record as opposing exceptions for rape and incest when criminalizing abortion. So let's kind of just actually try to absorb what is being stated here, which is that not only is this group in favor of criminalizing abortions, which I don't know what that would mean in terms of criminalizing the people who perform abortions or if it's criminalizing the people who seek them. But the president of this group that we are going to be registering potentially is against opposing exceptions to that for rape and incest, which means, put the incest aside for a second. The president of this organization would be in favor of criminalizing someone for performing or seeking an abortion if someone was raped and was impregnated due to that. I think we might be able to agree that there are things that sort of transcend politics, things that we can kind of universally come to some sort of consensus that these are heinous things. I don't think if I said genocide is wrong, that people would find that to be a particularly political or partisan or like a biased statement. I think obviously it is political in the sense that everything is political, but I think people are sort of able to understand that this is sort of like some universal declaration that like goes beyond like mere opinion. So I mean, that seems troubling at first glance. Just off of their website, for example, it says, when Roe and Doe are reversed, Students for Life will be the only entity with a trained and experienced army of ground troops ready to engage. I don't know if that language really reflects the sort of organizations that we want to have on campus, an army of ground troops that are going to be fighting what, women who have been raped and impregnated and want to seek abortions. It doesn't really seem like the type of organization that NISG or the university would want to be supporting. Say one of our main objectives is to, quote, end Planned Parenthood's influence in schools, which, given that Planned Parenthood is currently like a federally recognized, like it's a federal program that is like perfectly legal. I don't even know what the legality of trying to interfere with Planned Parenthood or its activities would even be. And I do think there's sort of like this broader question of whether we want like this sort of like outside agitation, like bringing in these like national chapters onto our campus and what that could do to our student body. And I think as NISG, as representatives of the university, I think we do have a responsibility like for the safety of our students. And I think purely outside of any realm of like political bias, I just think this is like incredibly heinous, and I don't know why we would be in favor of registering this organization. So just in terms of just briefly looking into sort of this national chapter, and we know that like in Turning Point USA's case, for example, a lot of these chapters are heavily involved in dictating exactly what the students on each particular campus are going to be doing. And so they're most likely going to be getting like directives from national in terms of like what sort of actions to support. And so I just think like for the sake of the campus community, it just doesn't seem like registering this organization would be in the best interest of that community. So I'll just leave it there for now, I guess.
Abby?
Can I speak? Can I speak?
I'm gonna do Abby first. Her hand's been up for a while.
Okay, so I really just think we need to take our opinions on the topic of abortion, whether people are pro-life or pro-choice, aside for this, because our entire country, our university, is formed on people having opinions and views on social issues. And while personally we as senators might not agree with that, we should not be tearing people down to not have opinions on things and be able to talk about them with others in the UNI community. And while I am familiar with some of the ideas that some of the negative connotations Mohammed brought up with Students for Life, we've passed organizations before that have also not had the greatest records of everyone, of the heads of the national organizations being perfect or anything like that. And I think we can't judge this organization and if they're going to be hurtful to the campus or not, if we're going to just suppress them right off the bat. And so I think we as senators need to take into consideration that if we don't allow these students to have this organization for something they might deeply care about, and it's something they believe, and that's completely their right to have that belief, I feel like we're doing more harm than good by suppressing our students rather than giving them the power to speak about what they care about.
Isha?
Yes, exactly. I agree with what Abigail said. We cannot deny an organization based on the possibility that they might take a stand that university might not agree with. If they do that, we do have the authority to deregister them. So we should not be thinking about if they are gonna do something. we should make our decisions solely based on their constitution, and their constitution agrees with everything our university policy lays out, which is also all university students have the right to express their opinions and form groups to like share those opinions.
Randy now.
Okay, great. Thanks, y'all. So, okay, so then let's play that game. Let's take opinion and belief out of this argument, and let's talk about what this bill enables. Let's talk about what happens after this. This bill enables this organization access to student funds and advertising that the majority of students, or at least, at the very least, the majority of my constituents would not approve their tuition dollars going to. This is not about belief or about opinion. We are representatives, first and foremost, of the people who elected us or who we are supposed to be representing. And I know for a fact that the majority of people in my constituency would not appreciate this organization having access to their tuition dollars. That's my main, I mean, again, if we're just not being political, it's not about what I think. It's about the people that I represent and what they pay for. And truly, I just cannot move forward on supporting a bill when I know that there are people in my corner that would not support this bill either. So that's my opinion. Thanks.
Caleb.
Yes, thank you, Hugh. So I'd just like to start off with a billboard that this chapter's national organization wants to or has put up. It reads, President Trump, Planned Parenthood aborts 360 Blacks every day. Help us. BlackPrebornLivesMatter.com. I would just like to pick up on what Randy said and what Muhammad said. We can try and be, apolitical and without opinion as much as we want, but there is a serious difference between political positions and disagreements and the university's stated ethos towards diversity and inclusion. We can make all the diversity statements, all the progressive statements we want about protecting women's reproductive rights, about protecting women's bodies, et cetera, et cetera. But when we have an organization that is using blatantly racist advertising, just instrumentalizing Black lives to push an anti-abortion or anti-pro-choice narrative, that is at serious odds with the university's stated mission. And I don't think that any of us can sit up here and say that we would approve any organization that, as long as their constitution fit with our guidelines, that we would approve it. I'm sorry to hyperbolize here, but if the KKK organization, a student organization, came to campus, was saying the same vitriolic and hateful things that this group does about women who choose to use their reproductive rights, their legally enshrined rights, rights that are in the have been held up at the highest courts and the Supreme Court. But as long as their constitution and as long as their document fit our standards and guidelines, so be it. That is just, I think, absolute hogwash. This is an essentially far-right organization that's trying to come onto campus and use our resources that are used and, that are produced universally to support a very fringe position. I'm sorry, but over 50% of Republicans support at least some late-term, not late-term, but abortions in cases of rape and incest, things like that. And like Muhammad said, what kind of a message are we promoting? What kind of a university image and ethos are we projecting when we are going to approve an organization that is not merely some sort of religious organization that is principled about its opposition to abortions, things like that? There are a lot of community organizations, lots of Catholic organizations that don't want to, criminalize and penalize women for using their legally protected rights. They'll do, they want to support them, provide them education, things like that, alternative methods. But this group is not doing any of that. I think that is very clear. This is a group that wants to push a message, that wants to push a very politically divisive and hurtful and hateful message. And I don't think that it's within our vested duties as elected representatives to just allow anyone and any organization on campus that wants to, so long as they fit within our constitutional guidelines. I would just like to pick up on what Randy said again here. My constituents, especially, and many of you know where I stand politically, this is an absolute disgrace to student funds, to the institution of student government. We are elected to represent the people that vote us in. And I know for a fact, and I would have a hard time substantiating this, but I don't think that the majority of our constituents, the vast majority, the super majority of our constituents would ever think that this is a good idea. And I would beg and plead and implore with anyone who does approve this to stand in front of your constituents, especially your female constituents, and tell them that you have approved an organization that wants to criminalize them for using their reproductive rights. I think that's just an absolute smack in the face to all the years and hard work that women and activists have done since the 1950s and 60s to make sure that women can use their reproductive rights. Yeah, I guess I still have a couple minutes, but thank you for your time.
Senator Barton.
Yeah, in regards to this group, I really think that, it's kind of a dangerous game to look at pushing most groups off campus. I think we have to be very intentional about who we want to pull out on and take off. Naturally, I'm hesitant to censor anyone, and I think this group, they fit the requirements. They have an opinion. Whether or not we like the opinion, I think they have the right to free speech to share what they believe, regardless of whether we like it or not. In regards to a constituents deal, I can guarantee you that. Well, I found out my mic is being a little weird. I think I just switched to my better microphone there. Yeah. I can guarantee, I think all of us have constituents putting funds towards something we disagree with. I'm pretty certain there are socialist groups on campus, and the College of Business probably doesn't love that, but that's where the funds go. And likewise, there are also, there's groups on all the sides, and I think we have to realize that there are groups on all sides as is. And so my opinion, at least, is that they fit the requirements. They, clearly they found people who expressed interest. And I think it's just very dangerous to try and silence a group in general.
Can I be recognized?
Abby's next.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to just follow up on what Matt was saying, and I just have again, I just want to urge everyone, if I think it's really important to put aside our differences if we're pro-choice or pro-life, and personally, like, just for the sake of it, I am not technically supportive of this organization for my own personal beliefs, but I think if we get into the idea that we have to we can't really limit them, because we have organizations on campus, like I don't remember the name specifically, so forgive me if I get it wrong. It was Trans Something America that we passed last year in Senate, and so that had a lot of controversial issues and some really there were a lot of disgusting videos and things like that from the larger organization, which we do have on campus, and it was passed on campus. So if we get into this territory of we don't support the larger organizations, so we're not going to let them on, then I think we're also going to have problems with all of those other organizations that already exist. And so I think it gets into dangerous territory if we start to kind of censor the types of organizations we let off campus, because then we'll have because it does an injustice to the people that want this organization if we don't let them on, and there are other organizations that also have maybe not the best track record on campus. And so yeah, I basically just I would really urge to put your political beliefs aside in regards to this topic, and really just take into consideration that this group of people has not done anything bad yet, and what the concern was with funding them, there are going to be people that are Republican, and their money is going to be, so we give money to organizations like the UNI Democrats and things like that. There's going to be, everyone's going to have organizations that their tuition money is going towards that they may not agree with. So that's one thing. And then also, I just think it's, yeah, really important that we don't censor people, especially before they haven't done anything wrong. And if this organization were to do something that starts stirring up a bunch of controversy or causing a lot of problems in the environment, then I think it would be our job to step in and prevent that from continuing.
Mohammed, you're next on the list. Speaking.
Okay, so well, first of all, I just want to say Matt and Abigail did a great job of defining the slippery slope fallacy for us. So in case we needed a brush up on our logic, that was fantastic. But I just want to say, I guess really the first thing is I almost fail to see the way in which this is about our political opinions on the matter. I mean, the university has an equal opportunity and non-discrimination statement. It has a strategic plan that's first goal is diversity inclusion, and also has a student conduct code. And I can go through these right now, and I could show that this organization would be explicitly violating what the very university's official documentation states. And I also like, is the university's itself, is its strategic plan that includes diversity inclusion, is that political? Is the university itself violating its like need to be nonpartisan simply by having a diversity inclusion goal as part of its strategic plan? I mean, like, I am not quite sure like how we're defining politics such that like this falls into the realm. I mean, literally anything that the university does is inherently political. Like we literally just talked about sending out a public statement regarding opposing Donald Trump and his actions in regards to international students. Is that violating the fact that we're a public university, the fact that President Nook and administration is going to put out a statement? The administration has already put out statements against DACA. So this idea that like, once you enter the realm of politics, suddenly, because it's a public university, we can't do anything. I think that's clearly false. I mean, by that definition, the university would be unable to do literally anything. But I just don't understand why like this arbitrary line is being drawn here as to the idea that this is about free speech or this is about censorship. If these are students that are on our campus, they're perfectly free to speak their opinions. I don't think anyone is questioning that at all. I think it's a ridiculous straw man to suppose that that's what we're doing here. I don't think the problem is about them speaking. I think that if we look at the history of this organization as a national organization, I mean, I can read it to you again. It says, when Roe and Doe are reversed, Students for Life will be the only entity with a trained and experienced army of ground troops ready to engage. This is from the official website, the website for Students for Life of America. I don't think anyone has any problem with them speaking. I think the problem is that they are going to be mobilizing these anti-abortion efforts. It says on their website, our key objective is to end Planned Parenthood's influence in schools. So clearly they want to somehow interfere with Planned Parenthood's operations. So this clearly is not about speech. It's about specific actions that they want to partake in. So like this issue has literally nothing to do with free speech. It's about like protecting our students, protecting our campus community, going back to what Randy said, about enacting the will of our constituents who are our representatives. And once again, like if the president is going to say, I'm in favor of criminalizing people for seeking abortions in the case of rape, what percentage of your constituency do you think supports that? I mean, I would be surprised if you could find even 1% of your constituency that would support like criminalizing people for abortion in the case of rape. I mean, that's such a ridiculous proposition. Like, I don't even know what to say to that. And once again, as I believe Randy mentioned about like the student funding that would go to this, if this is such a fringe position that not even like a tiny percentage of people would even support it, I don't know why our student money would be going to this. But once again, it's not about political opinions. It's not about speech. It's not about censorship. It's about, this is a specific group of people that are part of a national organization whose specific intended goal is to pursue actions that will be harmful to our community. So, I mean, I really can't be clearer on this point. I think it's fairly obvious. And I mean, once again, I can return to Caleb's point about the KKK. I don't know if you would consider it too political to oppose the KKK, or to not want like a KKK organization to be formed on campus. I mean, I think we can look at the national organization, its previous actions, and perhaps extrapolate what it is that they would be doing on campus. And I don't think that would end at speech. So I'm just gonna reiterate points that I've already made, but that's basically all I have.
Okay, Namal withdrawing her request. Then we'll have, if there's no opposition, then Mason will yield his time to Triad. Seeing none, go for it, Triad. Yes.
Right. I think people have covered a lot of what I would like to say, but still, I think I'm going to say it. I would like, people to keep in mind that just because something is legal or constitutional does not mean that it's right. What used to be legal? Segregation, homophobia, things like that. So again, just because it fits our guidelines doesn't mean that we should allow it to be part of our campus. That really is my first point. My second point is that some people have brought up the idea that we can separate politics from what we do. Personally, I think it's kind of impossible. We, NISG, are a political organization. Everything we do can be construed as political. And so to separate politics from what we do, it goes against what we are. So, and of course, you may have different definitions about politics, as in a difference in opinions. And for me, we are veering dangerously close to false equivalency, as in we assume that all opinions are all opinions deserve, sort of equal footing. Like, from what I can see of this organization, they are of the opinions that, let's see. So, yeah, they have the opinion that abortion is bad, which is an opinion that can result in catastrophic consequences for for productive rights, I would say. So, I mean, sorry, I'm not really prepared for this. This is a purely emotional response, but yeah, I would argue that not all opinions are equal. There are opinions and there are opinions that get people killed in many cases. And if we find, and in that case, there's really no middle ground here. And of course, if we were to approve of this organization, we would be saying to our constituents that we support you, but we also support the people that want to take your rights away. So it's a hard thing to comprehend for me. And of course, some people would not appreciate their tuition dollars going towards initiatives or organizations that want to take their rights away. So as many have touched on this. So yeah, I do not think that we should approve of this organization, and it should serve as an example that we don't, of us not tolerating any infringement to human rights. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Laura using Alice Sand's time, one of Alice Sand's times.
Okay, thank you for the time, y'all. This is a question more directed towards OrgFi committee members. Normally when organizations come, you are able to look at their constitution, ask any questions you deem necessary. So I'm kind of wondering, when they state here that they are working to save lives threatened by induced abortion, and they are working to serve the purpose of enhancing knowledge as people and promoting the spirit of unity, consciousness, history, and diversity among students. If you asked what exactly that entailed, I'm looking at their Facebook page. One of their first videos is Defund Planned Parenthood, and looking at what Planned Parenthood provides. It provides LGBTQ services, HIV control services, men's health care, mental health, morning after pill, STD testing, all things that we as students are really asking and requesting the university provides. And if the university itself cannot provide, where else are students going to go for those services? And I'm also wondering, are they looking to put on events, or is it like informational services, if you know? I did see them already about 3 weeks ago out in front of ROD. I believe this was through their, it's a public space, so anybody can really be there. Just having a little event, trying to promote discussion, I believe. So I'm wondering, if this question was asked, do you know if they're planning on doing any events outside of campus, like maybe even going to the local Planned Parenthood and protesting there, or just being on campus? On the topic of counter-protesting, on the speaker who came today to campus, one of the things that they were discussing was abortion, and that really riled up students, rightfully so. So thinking about how this will impact students from minoritized backgrounds is very important. I want that to be thought of. So I guess just kind of, I don't know if I can do that, to kind of ask the OrCA members if that was a question that was asked, or if you know by reading their constitution and what they submitted, what they plan to do for students and for campus life.
Hugh, a quick question. Would answering this be like one of my times or no? Yes, I'm thinking yes.
I would probably say yes, yeah. So yeah, you could wait to answer it later if you want to add like more comments and answer it at the same time, or maybe Stephanie will answer it too. With that, Max is next.
Okay, yeah, can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, I wanted to agree with Mohammed and Laura and Triet, Caleb, all of those people. I think they hit it on the head really well. This is a hate group. This is hate speech. This is hateful rhetoric that is infringing on basic human rights of healthcare. And we cannot support diversity and be complicit in its destruction at the same time. Like, free speech is only going so far. When this group is organizing and they're applying for funds through NISG, like, yeah, sure, as individuals, as students at UNI, they have free speech, but when they're organizing and applying for funds, they need to meet some new criteria. And I don't want my funds, nor do my constituents want their funds, going towards quote unquote mobilizing an army. What the heck is that? Mobilizing an army of hateful advocates. So that's really all I had to say. I'm sorry that was emotionally charged, but I am 100% not in support of this bill. So
Randy's next. It's your
Okay,
second
I
time.
guess, yeah, this is my last time. So goodbye, everyone. I'm just kidding. So Abby, there was something that you said in specific that I just want to like come back to and highlight. You said they haven't done anything bad yet. Why is that necessary? It's almost as if everyone in the room knows that there is some issue with approving this group because the yet in that statement was necessary. In addition, comparing groups like this to a group like socialists or college Republicans, how is that a fair comparison at all? When this group uses clear militant language, just as Mohammed mentioned 2 times. Additionally, I believe that it would be, I don't believe, this is a fact, it would be very, I have a stutter. This is this is common knowledge. It would be hypocritical of us as NISG to week after week publicly promote like marches for justice and protest events, and then turn around and support a hate group that does not have the interests of a majority of our students at heart. Do we show love and acceptance by aiding the oppressed, or do we allow ourselves to speak in the language of the oppressor? I think this is an important question that we all have to answer. So I know that we have to come back to this is not political, but most of us are not saying that this is political. This is something that transcends politics. This is human rights. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
I believe Danny is next.
Can I recommend that we have them maybe come in next week or a week that works for them so we can all question them and then motion to table this? Is that a thing?
We could table this, but it would have to be for a good reason, such as they did not meet this requirement. Okay, I'm gonna use my second time here if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I have so many things to tell you and share with you. Can I share my screen for a second?
Yes. Yeah. Go for it.
I think okay, there we go. Okay. Registration of student orgs, right there. Registering a student org does not constitute that NISG endorses or approves any of their activities or their viewpoints. So the point you're bringing up, does NISG want to support this viewpoint? It does not reflect on what our values are. So we need to be as clean and take it away from your emotional response. Think of it objectively, because this is not a reflection of what NISG believes to be true. And here are all the other things. And I want to bring to attention that sometimes when we're not registering a student org, university can face legal issues. Last year, we had a student org. I do not remember their name, but they did sue another universities because they denied their organization to become a registered student org because they claimed that they were being prohibited from speaking their minds. And okay, we need to provide every student org the equality of opportunity. Nowhere in their constitution they mention that they have anything to do with military or they are going to take action to prevent people from accessing that healthcare. They have not said that. Their language is to promote awareness, and we cannot go off of their national chapter. We have to look at what they put in their constitution. If you want to look at that, I can share my screen with you. So what we are concerned with is what language do they use in their constitution, and that's what they stand for. We cannot take the national chapter and extrapolate it to mean that they're gonna do something that's not gonna align with the university, with our values. NISG is not supporting or against their organization. Does that make sense? I can answer any questions right now.
I imagine Stephanie has similar things to share. We'll let Noelle yield her time to Stephanie.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for Noelle for letting me speak. But yes, Isha, you stole my thunder. That's exactly what I was going to point out, especially for the new senators who may be unfamiliar with this specific policy. And I don't know if Isha did this, but I will put the link to that policy in the chat so everyone can look at it. So I would just, yeah, echo what Isha already pointed out, specifically in point 3, that recognition of an organization does not constitute the university or student government endorsement or approval of those viewpoints or activities of the organization. It is the policy of the university and NISG to register any student org formed in good faith for a lawful purpose. And so as long as the organization meets the criteria set forth and they have been vetted through OrgFi that is the case, then they should be recognized regardless of your opinion of the organization. Turning Point USA was the group who was recognized last year that I think we've been discussing. I don't know if that specifically came up or not. Do you know that University of Iowa does have a chapter of Students for Life? University of Iowa has had some lawsuits in the past, just to give you some context, with not recognizing or revoking recognition of student organizations that they did not feel were like in line with their beliefs, specifically Christian focused organizations. And the university did have lawsuits and has had lawsuits surrounding that First Amendment rights of those organizations. If the organization is to be approved by you all, do know that they do have to still adhere to individual and as a student organization, our conduct code and any other university policies. So, they don't just have free reign to do whatever they want. They still have to operate within our expectations as an institution and as an organization within the student conduct code. So yeah, just especially for the new senators, I would encourage you all to review that policy 3.10.
Caleb.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, for encouraging us to go read those sections. I really appreciate that. However, I think we should make clear first off, since Stephanie just spoke, what positions all of us are speaking from. So when Stephanie says that we need to be careful, as well as Isha, about lawsuits, about free speech, well, I'm sorry, but no student is ever going to be sued for our role here today. That's the administration's problem. That's the university's problem. And if we're not willing to defend women in court, what the hell are we doing here? We like Randy said, we're basically being hypocrites if we put out all these statements and we do these justice marches. But then when it comes to a simple student org whose national affiliation is clearly gaslighting and far right, just completely out of the mainstream acceptability, that's a totally different question. I don't see any reason to defend this organization, especially given their completely almost comical discourse about having an army of people. But just to be clear, when a university gets sued for not allowing a student organ, that is taking that as your defense, I think, is extremely facile and weak. That's just a complete preference or privileging of money and of admins over student well-being. I think it's just extremely offensive to claim that we should be more concerned about the university's checkbook and about university lawyers than the rights, the legal rights and protections of women, and rights and protections that we shouldn't be just going back on because one student org wants to do this. Another point I want to make to follow up on what Isha said about national org versus this local chapter. Well, typically when an organization like this gets chartered by a national organization, you have to sign on to some sort of constitution, some sort of agreed belief system, etc. And if they aren't agreeing with or directly supporting or proliferating what their national organization is saying, why are they affiliated with them in the first place? So I'll just be honest here. I'm part of the Democratic Socialists of America, and anything that my chapter or organization does is a direct reflection of the national organization and vice versa. There's no chickening out or getting out of your chartership. If you're chartered by a national org, you are responsible for that national org, just as that org is responsible for you. So there's no way to disassociate this small university chapter from what the national org at large does. And that brings me to their website. And I really do want to emphasize that this is not just another conservative student organization. Like I emphasized before, there are groups that are against abortion that go far and above what this group does to actually provide healthcare to women, that provide alternatives, that really push adoption and provide those services. And I don't agree with that whatsoever, but that is a much more respectable line to take towards this question than just criminalizing women. So they have a nice little blog about how to convince your young radical liberal friends to support anti-abortion. And it's not the argument itself, but the content of the argument. So for example, they have a little section here that I think you'll find amusing, if not just, I don't know, egregious. So it says here, consider the logic every post like, the anti-abortion post inherently use. I know they kill over 300,000 babies every year, but they do good stuff too. This line of logic simply wouldn't fly with any other issue if we could possibly be discussing. Consider a thought experiment with homelessness as the social issue in place of abortion. Please pay special attention here. Imagine there's a large chain of homeless aid shelters called Help for You. They serve meals, help people find jobs, and offer free clothing, but they make most of their money to operate shelters by executing homeless individuals who have been deemed nuisances by their community. They execute over 250,000 homeless people each year for about $400 to $1,000 each. Would anyone be saying, I know they kill a bunch of homeless people every year, but they also serve meals and give out clothes, so I'm cool with it? No, probably not. That in itself, to think scientifically, it's of course bunk to say that Planned Parenthood or most abortions kill babies. That's just gaslighting and wrong. And comparing killing homeless people to providing abortion and reproductive services is far beyond any political discussion we can have about the merits of abortion. That's gaslighting. That's language that should never be used to defend or oppose a political position. That I think is just egregious and disqualifying in itself. They also have some other things here about Planned Parenthood that are lies and farcical, and we should definitely be taken in consideration when we're thinking about approving this org beyond their political commitments. They say that Planned Parenthood tries to basically addict people to get on daily hormones in massive doses. They claim it's perfectly safe. They claim that Planned Parenthood basically is a money laundering operation, that their executives take millions of taxpayer dollars every year. And then their president has been labeled by Media Matters, a really great nonpartisan media watchdog, as one of the top 4 deceptive abortion speakers in the country. Basically, she is one of the biggest liars and proliferators of BS about abortion. And so I think that really does bring us back to the question that Danny has raised. I believe it's Danny. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. But it's to say that we need to set aside all political convictions. Like Triet said, we're already a political body, but in the very forcing of us to vote these people in, not these people, this group, this organization, you're forcing us to make a very political choice to approve this type of speech and these types of just false lies and distortions of truth. So like I said, I guess to sum up, this group is far beyond any discussion, any reasonable discussion we can have about how we should be using student resources or what kind of political discourse we should want on campus. And I really do think that their national organization is completely disqualifying. To advertise that you want to criminalize with an army of people, women who are using their legal rights. I'm sorry, but that is directly opposed to the university's mission to provide a diverse and inclusive campus. And it just smacks hypocrisy in the face of anyone that would vote for this and still claim the liberal or progressive label. I think that is just atrocious. Thanks.
Salima.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I don't have complete voice right now, but Caleb said everything that I was gonna say almost. But let me give you guys another example. If this was a white supremacist group on campus trying to open an organization just to threat, like to objectify, I don't know the exact word, for like black, like minorities across campus, would you guys approve that too? Because like approving this bill is the same thing as approving a white supremacist group that's trying to make an organization on campus. You're basically saying you support them to violate women's rights. And like, I'm sorry, but I don't want a group on campus that's gonna like, just an example, if I'm pregnant, they're gonna try to force me not to abort my child. That's not their choice. And I know like there's nowhere in the bill that says they're gonna like do any, like force anyone to do it. But if you look at the website, there's a lot of things that I see on the website that doesn't match exactly what they said on the bill here. And students' life work to save lives threatened by induced abortion. I don't think approving this bill is gonna help anybody out. You're just gonna like suppress more women on campus and suppress more people, and that's not your right. That's the person's right. Whoever has the baby, that's their right, whether or not they want to have a baby or not. And having this group is like saying we support diversity and inclusion and all that stuff, but at the same time you approving a group that's gonna suppress all that. Sorry.
Matt.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that we should try and subject students to, all kinds of terrible things or hatred. But what they've presented us with is what we've got to take. I mean, if they violate their constitution, then we have grounds to get rid of them in a legitimate way. And then we can, then they might be gone for good. Because if they try and come back, we have a history of past problems. I think that's a long-term solution to let them in and keep a close watch, maintain a short leash, and see what happens if you don't want them here. But as of right now, their website has a non-violence clause. I think if they have this militant language, it's probably more a statement of passion than a literal call for violence, is my take based on that. And I know, again, the lawsuit thing, I get it. It's administration's problem. But if we cause it, we're not helping students. Who do you think will end up footing the bill if the university gets sued? Do you think they're just going to cut their losses and say, well, I guess we lost this one, or tuition's going to go up? I really think we have to consider all this. I'm not saying we support the group by allowing them to be here. We simply acknowledge that they exist, and that's that. And I think, if we want to really, if we're not big fans of them, like I said, we let them in, we watch. If they screw up and start doing these terrible things that you suspect they will do, we can shut it down immediately. I mean, we have that right as the student government to call them out and say that. And I think that's the solution we ought to have.
Sam.
I just have one thing to say. I would like, I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to be able to read their constitution. But like, obviously it may be more difficult. I don't know how that would be done, or if that's possible at all, to actually see their constitution and see what it entails, because we are all making judgments based off what the national chapter says on that website, which that it may differ from what they've claimed in their own constitution. And that's all I have to say.
Yes, Isha. Yeah, you could send out the Constitution or share the screen. I think that's a pretty reasonable request. Do you have access to it? Could you send me that link? Or send it to the group. Moreover, I guess Alsan is next.
Yeah. First, just wanted to err on the side of this isn't. It's hard to define this as like political talk or not when we're talking about a group that is pushing for women to, you know, lose the right to choose, especially in college towns. Especially that can sometimes be pretty important for women, since, you know, sometimes it's not always their choice as it is for men sometimes. But going off that, I motion to vote.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Is there any opposition to voting right now? Isha?
Can we like give people some minutes to look over the Constitution?
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable. So you know what? We will take a 4-minute recess and read the Constitution. Let's set a 4-minute timer.
Hey Hugh, can I share my screen so people who don't have, oh, there we go. Thank you.
All right, the 4-minute timer that I set just went off, which concludes our recess. So there was a motion to vote again, and that got seconded. Are there any objections to that motion? Okay, then we'll move to a roll call vote. And we will start with Denise.
No.
Jackie.
Abstain.
Isha.
Abstain.
Mohammed.
No.
Matt.
Yes.
Rocio.
No.
Danny.
Abstain.
Giselle.
Abstain.
Abby.
Yes.
Sam.
No.
Randy.
Absolutely not.
Noel.
Abstain.
Aya. Aya.
Abstain.
Salima.
Oh no, sorry.
What was that?
No.
Haley.
Abstain.
Alexandria.
No.
Mason.
Yes.
Spencer.
No.
Caleb.
No.
Max.
No.
Sam.
Abstain.
Namal.
No.
Annabelle.
Abstain.
And Parker.
No.
Okay, so that bill is rejected on a vote of 3 to 11 to 9. Excellent. That's the last